Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, joined by Ben and Milton for Outer Rim Transmission. This is episode number 84. This week, we're spending the whole episode talking about Andor because it was the Andor season finale. We had 12 episodes this season. This last episode, episode 12, Rix Road. We're going to dive in deep to this episode, and it's here in here in US. It's Thanksgiving, so we're going to start off by just, hey, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food? I'm going to just icebreaker. Boom. Go ahead, Milton, you first.
Macaroni, easily. Like mac and cheese. I say a good strong number 2 is green bean casserole. Like, it's a given.
Oh, okay. Ben.
Those are excellent choices. Those are probably my top, probably 6, I would say. But for me, my favorite by far is ham, like a really good honey ham. Like I could just eat an entire ham to myself on Thanksgiving. It's literally my favorite thing. But yeah, I'd say honey ham is for sure my number one.
Damn, that's interesting. So I've never had anything other than turkey on Thanksgiving, although I know it's not an abnormality to have other things like pork or ham, for instance, and things like that. But yeah, that's interesting. So you're going for the primary piece of protein. I will pick. Yep. As of recent times, I've really liked what my aunt does with this sweet potato casserole with like the marshmallows. I know people will say, "Oh, it's too sweet. It's like dessert," but I'm like, I don't care. I'll have my dessert whenever.
Really good.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good one. Getting back to some family that we haven't seen in a few years. So it's all good on my end. Basically collapsed in a food coma by the end of the night. Did not make it past the first 5 minutes of Nightmare Before Christmas. But other than that, it was great.
Hey, that's good, man. It's always good to have a good amount of family time like that. Same here. Like we had a good time with all of our relatives, and of course we had plenty of our family members going Black Friday shopping today, like people going to bed early because they were like, "Oh, we got to get up at like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. to do all that stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. I'll do my Black Friday shopping on Amazon."
Yeah, what's the big gift that people are going for this year? Does anybody know? There's obviously not really any game systems that are new this year.
I know.
But, it's...
I know. Yeah, I know our local Walmart here was having a bunch of their big electronic devices for super cheap. Like there was a 70-inch Roku TV for only $230 or something. It was really cheap. So different things like that, I think, are always the big draw. But the thing is, I've been Black Friday shopping twice in my whole life, and both times it was never do it again moments because it's just so crazy. And then, for those type of ticket items, you have to just stand in line for hours just to get the ticket number to go up and get the item, and it just, I don't know, it's a pain. I'll never forget it. A fun story I had from back, the first time I ever went was when I was in high school. I went with my uncle. He wanted to get a digital camera for my aunt. That was before, we were all having cameras on our phones consistently. So we went to Walmart, or not Walmart, Best Buy. And of all things, when we were standing in line, waiting, my uncle was like, "All right, hold our spot in the line." And he went back to a section where they had little chairs you could buy, and he went and just got a chair and brought it up to the line and was sitting in the line in the chair of people. But it's craziness out there on Black Friday.
Yeah, I think definitely with the onset of the huge consumer-based stuff you could buy online, Amazon, Target, Walmart, they're all the big ones. So you really don't have to leave the comfort of your home and your safety. As we've seen many videos over the past, people literally getting trampled in the Walmarts and all that. But my mom used to go out. She would, go home from Thanksgiving, get up at 5 a.m. or the crack of dawn to go to the mall. And, I see a lot of electronics and things are 20% off here, 20% off there. But it's I'm not finding anything that's absolutely necessary for me, at least. I'm more of a late shopper where I'll get the stuff 3 days before Christmas, and it's kind of stressful, and I don't know why I do that to myself, but yeah, it's probably the trend that's going to happen this year.
Oh yeah, that's always one good part of it. One thing I did enjoy the couple times I did go Black Friday shopping though was a lot of stores no matter what they were. Like back when we were like really getting into like the physical media, like DVDs and Blu-rays, like it would be like, their DVDs being like $1 a piece or like 75
Yep.
cents, like, really, really cheap DVDs. So that's where like I got most of my DVD collection was from, the Black Friday shopping I did do, just because it was like, hey, I spent $25 and got like 25, 26, 27 movies. Like it was
Whoa.
worth it. So, like those type of deals I enjoy, but a lot of people go Black Friday shopping for like those clothes and all that stuff. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I want to go for the fun stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But no, that's the thing with all of that. It's just, is it really that big of a deal that you're getting? Sometimes you just got to think about it. It's like you can find some deals just randomly through the year where it's just like, oh yeah, that's actually a good price, So sometimes I think a lot of us get caught up in like the hype of it all with the Black Friday. Oh my gosh, the Cyber Monday's coming up, everybody. So yeah,
Yep.
But what I will say is, for my week of Star Wars, I did see Grogu flying in the sky of New York City. I wasn't even watching it live. I was just seeing it on Twitter. Somebody took a video of like their TV of like the Funko Grogu, which I think they had last year. I think last year he was like holding like the little shiny ball thing from the Razor Crest. This year he's just flying with nothing in his hands. But it's just goes to show, the pool of the Mandalorian still out there. It's still as present as ever, even though it's been off the air for a few years.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. I was actually going to bring that up for my weekend Star Wars as well. I saw that live
Gotcha.
when I was watching that. Yeah, no, it is crazy, like seeing like the pool of the Mandalorian and how popular it is. But literally, when we were at our relatives, my aunts and uncles who don't watch the Mandalorian knew exactly who that was. They're like, oh, that's Baby Yoda. Like they literally said that. Oh, Ben, look, it's Baby Yoda on TV.
Yeah.
So it's like people, like it's just crazy seeing like how much it's like crossed over different areas, like ages and whatnot. And then like I would say for my secondary weekend Star Wars, since you took mine basically, mine was actually, so Tuesday night I was just relaxing, watching The Mandalorian season 2, the Bo-Katan episode 3, I believe it was, and I messaged you guys in the chat about it, and I'm not sure. Maybe our viewers have. I'm sure some of them have heard it, but others may have missed it. So when Bo-Katan is first talking with Mando, she mentions to him, like we're just under the impression maybe the Empire like wiped out Mandalore. But then she mentions to him, she literally says the word specifically, we need to retake it. Like she's talking about taking it from someone. Yep. So that means like the Empire is probably occupying it, in my opinion.
That is crazy to me to think that the Empire in its state where it's a remnant has enough power to hold a planet at this point. Like, damn, man, like we first seen the Empire just struggling with these guys just trying to protect this client dude with like scrappy looking armor, and you're gonna tell me that they have enough forces out there to hold an entire planet as a blockade, basically? That is surprising.
To hold off Mandalorians, that's another thing too that was interesting to me was, I wonder if they're using, I don't know, something to be, I don't know, like, because you'd think Mandalorians would be able to take back, like, say, a building or even a cityscape. Like, Mandalorians are like cunning warriors, especially like Bo-Katan and her people. So it's just interesting that she used the word retake. So it's like, I wonder like how souped up the Empire has that. Maybe that's like one of their main bases right now during this time period. Like that could be like maybe the major like headquarters for them or something. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe they have a bunch of death troopers there, like, something like that we might see in season 3 of Mando. But yeah, she used the word retake, and I was like, man, I need to bring this up on the podcast because maybe people missed this, because I sure did.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you look at Rebels Season 4 opener, and they have that mechanized weapon that actually, like, melts Mando's inner armor. So yep. I'm thinking that they have something on a bigger scale than that, even. Like, that's just, anybody comes near, it's an automated weapon turret that just blows them away. There's no even use of trying to get in there.
I mean, it's possible. Think about it. It's Favreau and Filoni. Like, I mean, all bets are off. They might use it. I mean, we got live action Bo-Katan. What's to say we don't get a live action version of that weapon?
Yeah, Yeah, Bill, what are your thoughts on this? You think that the Mandalorian planet homeworld Mandalore is going to be heavily fortified Imperial position? I mean, we see a lot of fighting in the trailers, a lot of fighting. Not sure where that is. It's probably not even Mandalore, but yeah, it could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of got a hint at that at the end of season 2 whenever they talked about the dark saber. I mean, I think we all can predict that this particular season is going to go to that particular area of Star Wars, and that's something that I think fans want to see. I mean, look, Mandalore and all that stuff with Mandalore back in the Clone Wars cartoon was dope. I think that was some of my favorite, storytelling when it comes to that show. And I think in live action, bringing back, you don't bring back Katie Sackhoff.
Hmm.
No, you don't bring her back just to do a couple episodes. I mean, come on, you got to pay that off. And clearly, they hinted at that at the end of season 2. So I would love to see it. I know they said it was destroyed by the Empire at one point, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's something that they weren't telling us, or maybe there's parts of Mandalore that was destroyed. Might be some of that stuff still there. I mean, you don't just wipe out a particular type of culture without at least giving us something. So no, or so yeah. So I think it's going to be in the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because in the Book of Boba Fett, we get the flashback of like the hundreds of TIE bombers that are just unleashing carnage on that place. And when you think about it, like this location has seen so much destruction. Even in the Clone Wars, it had already suffered war, and that's why they have that shell because the people already were in war, and like the outskirts of that were all desolated from destruction. So all the people were living already in that one little shelter. Then to see that get bombed to hell and lava and everything in the Book of Boba Fett flashback, it's like what's left of this place at this point? I guess underground is the only place left, which is the caves that he's having to said like redo his vow to the Mandalorian. I don't know, but yeah, could be interesting. Could be interesting. All right, so a little bit of housekeeping. As always, for those of you that are watching live, we also have this available to download at any time. Just search Outer Rim Transmission on any of your favorite podcast streaming apps. We're also on YouTube. If you listen, go ahead and give us a watch on YouTube, youtube.com/Starrapter. We go live every Friday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern, and we always have a lively chat in there. Go join the people like Aaron Daly. Hey, how's it going, Aaron? So we had probably the biggest released week in Star Wars publishing in a long time. So many things came out this week. I've been busy on the channel, as you probably have seen if you've been following along. There were several releases, so I'm going to run through the list very quickly here. First things first, we had a brand new Star Wars novel, and that is Star Wars Convergence. It's the big novel opening up not season 2, but phase 2 of the High Republic. It's very good so far, very good. Written by Zerata Cordova. It's basically you have these two warring planets, Iram and Arona, and they are locked in this big war where one of the princes was killed, and I don't know half the story because I'm only like 50 pages in. Just been busy, obviously, with the holiday here in the U.S., but it seems really cool because you have these tensions on both sides. You have characters' perspectives on both sides, and it's just like there's a ceasefire, and that does not last longer than 3 days. This battle's been going on for like 5 years, and now the Jedi are involved in the mix and trying to mediate things, but it just goes to show, like, hey, what happens before the epic galactic wars of the Galactic Empire and the Republic versus the CIS and the First Order, and you have little small scale conflicts going on in star systems that don't require the attention of the entire galaxy. These are the types of things that were happening way back when, and it's cool to see the Jedi, just like we've seen Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan kind of for this dispute for the Trade Federation, battleships. It's nice to see that all well and alive here in the High Republic, seeing how things are going, even before the Nihil thing, because again, this is like 150 years before all of that. So quite a ways back in time. We also had Secrets of the Bounty Hunters. It's a new source book that has a bunch of cool facts and tidbits on every character that's a bounty hunter, from Dirge to Zam Wessel to Byron Valence to Mara Vex from the new upcoming Hunters game. It leaves no stone unturned when it comes to talking about the weapons, the armor, the ships. Has a lot of cool little fold out, different kind of interactive things like a pop up not a pop-up sandcrawler, pop-up, what is it called? Sarlacc pit. A lot of cool things in there. So nothing, there's no revelations in there about any characters. Although, Ben, you'll enjoy this one. They have a rundown of characters that are alive and characters that are dead. And under the people that's alive, Cad Bane is listed.
Called it.
I called it.
Hey,
I
that's
made
great.
a video on YouTube. Okay, I'll back this up for quickly. Like they basically say like these characters are confirmed dead, and Arsing is there, Greedo is there, and then the rest of the characters are basically not in that list. Hence, Cad Bane, and they even slyly put it because it's narrated from Hondo Naka's perspective, and Hondo Naka, and this is great because he's just the writer. Mark Sumerak really gets the tone and the comedic timing of Hondo, but yeah, and even Hondo's talking about like this Duros Cad Bane. He's like he was last seen with this battle on Tatooine, and next thing you know, the Pikes, and he's disappeared, and some think he's dead, some think he's not dead, and if he ever comes back in my area, he might kill me. So it's like it's very wishy-washy. But yeah, I mean, I think he's coming back. Whether or not we'll see him in season 3 of Mando. Maybe that's too soon. Maybe we'll see him in, I don't know, Skeleton Crew, some random other thing that's connected to the Mandalorian. That could be fun because I think we can all agree that there is a lot more that this character could have done with his reputation, and to see him killed off in just 2 episode appearances just seems a little bit weak on my part. Right, Ben?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's really good to hear. Great news to start this podcast, actually. But yeah, like I was thinking, like you said, you made the video on it back when it came out, and even when we were watching it, it was like they, when Cad Bane got quote unquote killed, they hung on his body too long and let that light flicker. So like, it's too much of a tell, I think. And then also, Dave Filoni's not going to kill his character off that quick. Like, he's not. I don't think he would, anyways. Just because it's like, why would you kill him off when you can use him when there's potentially a Book of Boba Fett season 2 down the road, like, stuff like that. Like, there's plenty of opportunities to use Cad Bane, and it's like, hey, we just now got him into live action, and you're gonna kill him off. Like, he's back, and I feel like you said, I don't think we'll see him in Mandalorian season 3. I don't, just because I think a lot of the stuff is going to be revolving around what we open this podcast about. It's going to be revolving around Mandalore and that whole journey with Din. But yeah, I think Cad Bane will be kind of on the back burner and be like a surprise. Say if we get a Book of Boba Fett season 2, or even a random one maybe. Like what if Ahsoka gets into some trouble and she runs into Cad Bane and he recognizes her from the Clone Wars, like something like that. Ooh. During her show. There's plenty of opportunities for Cad to appear, and I just think we scratched the surface with just the Book of Boba Fett stuff.
Yeah, Mel, would you like to see Cad Bane make a return, or you want him to just stay dead at this point?
I mean, I don't think he's dead, so I'd be cool with him coming back as long as they use him right. Like, it doesn't. I'm cool with him. I like the character. If you're gonna have him around, just make sure you use him right. Don't depower him. He wasn't some trash bounty hunter. He was actually nice. He could stand up to Jedi. So my fear is that they would depower him for some weird reason, but if you bring him back, use him right. If you don't bring him back, then he needs to be dead.
Guys, they already depowered him. Remember Bad Batch?
Yeah, that is true. He got
Fennec Shan. I mean, an upstart bounty hunter takes him out. Like, well, it wasn't easy for her, though. At least he did put up a fight. But it goes to show, okay, maybe he is losing his edge at that point, because I don't know the lifespan of a Duras or how old he even is. But that's the argument. Is like, okay, yeah, eventually he would get his senses and his skills dulled if he's not fighting Jedi all the time. It's been several years at that point, and what else is he doing, So, anyway.
What better way than practice against Ahsoka?
Yeah, seriously. All right, so that wasn't all. We also had Tales from the Rancor Pit, which is a collected little graphic novel. Actually, I have it right here. This is a cool little graphic novel by Dark Horse. It came about a month late because, as you could probably imagine, this is more of like a Halloween themed Star Wars book. Got great artwork in here by a number of different artists, but I like how it really pops. The artwork's pretty nice in this. But yeah, it's just a bunch of short stories. Essentially, a guy's being about to be eaten by a rancor. He's trying to plead for his life, and he says, "I can tell you a couple stories." And one of them's about, wampas and dragon slugs on Hoth. And you got different things going on with the Clone Wars, with droids being reanimated by some kind of thing where the guy ends up having a hallucination. Spoiler alert. And we also have something in the High Republic. So that was a fun read. Next up, we also had a brand new series start off. Yoda, issue number 1. Yeah, no, this list just keeps on going, Issue number 1 of a new maxi series, written, of course, by Cavan Scott. Another one written by the British author over there. And Revelations number 1. I showed this one in our private chat about this big issue from Marvel. That's like a preview of what's to come in the next 3-4 months, essentially. I showed you guys a page in the chat there where it's like, oh yeah, you have you have Sabe putting on Darth Vader's helmet, you have Qi'ra knocking down Emperor Palpatine, you have Palpatine with his red lightsaber, you have Luke Skywalker weighing the decision of using a red or a green kyber crystal, you have just so much stuff happening in this one fever dream kind of vision that Vader had when he visited the Eye of Webbish Bog there on Mustafar, as it called to him, telling him the future. So it's very much like a esoteric, kind of far-fetched issue that just packs in a bunch of what-ifs that I think will probably end up being just a matter of time to being confirmed eventually. So there you go. Those were the several things. And then in the mail today, I didn't even add this to the notes because it was just earlier today. I did receive the latest issue of Star Wars Insider. So, as if to add more stuff on my plate, that came in. I guess it's like, okay, Christmas is coming. Let's pump out all this stuff right before Black Friday for people to have something to put on their list. So, there you have it. If you missed any of that, I have videos for pretty much all of it on the channel. That was out earlier this week. So, without further ado, I know everybody's been waiting for it. We're going to have our Andor Season 1 finale discussion here. This is Season 1, Episode 12, Rix Road, the big episode. All roads end on Rix Road because all the characters except Mon Mothma ended up on this place, from what I was really happy with Cyril and Mosk. I was telling you guys, I literally clapped out loud when I seen Mosk and Cyril just sitting on the transit bus. Yes, this is gonna be sick. This is gonna be all. You have Dedra arriving there in an Imperial shuttle, which was so badass. Can never get enough of that design. You have Cassian, of course, getting drawn back for his mother's funeral. So much going on. I'm gonna throw this one over to Milton. First impressions of the final episode of Season 1, man.
I don't know how I feel about this finale. I honestly don't know. So I watched it Thursday, and prior to watching it, I actually was looking at some reviews. I didn't actually watch reviews to see what people's initial impressions were. People were saying that they were liking it. Some people said it was okay. So I went and watched it, and it was just okay to me. It didn't really impact me where I was like, man, this is such a good finale. I did not walk away coming from it, and I'm not saying it was a bad episode. I'm not saying that at all. It just it didn't kick my ass where I was like, man, I cannot wait for Season 2 now. I was honestly thinking this finale would lead up to something where I'm like, okay, some characters are changing, characters are dying, the show's going to shift. Season 2 is going to be where it's at. Honestly, I couldn't. This episode was just okay. It's just okay. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't that exciting. I think the pacing to me was kind of off. Thought they could have done some things differently. Thought some characters should have died. I think everyone shouldn't have lived. I think people should have died. But I guess they're setting it up for Season 2, and hopefully things will pay off in the first couple episodes of Season 2. But again, this episode was just okay to me.
Ben?
I'd say I think for me, the episode, like, I can definitely echo a lot of those points, Milton. Like, I think there were some parts in the episode I felt like they were a little drug on. Like for me, I know a lot of people loved the Marva speech thing. Like,
Mm.
I think that could have been cut down just a little bit because I think it was drug out just a smidge too long for my liking. But like for me, I thought the episode overall was solid. You know, it wasn't like an incredible, like, over the top finale. Like, to me, like, I know this was 12 episodes and stuff. Like, obviously this wouldn't be a midway point, but to me this felt more like a mid-season finale than a
Yeah.
finale, in my opinion. Like, that's honestly my assessment of it, because like, I just think, you know, we should have, like you mentioned, Milton, I think we should have had like a death from one of the new characters, whether it be Deidre or any, like, the good guys. Like I think we should have had someone die, or Cyril, or whoever. But like, I just think there should have been some type of, like, a death or something. And then some of the pacing, I think at the beginning of the episode was drug out. It was a little too slow, because, and I'm saying this not even just as like a thing, because I've loved the pacing from episode 6 until episode 11. Like, I've loved the last 5 episodes pacings, and it just felt like we almost hit like a a brick wall. It felt like we almost hit that, just because it was like we go from, like, these, like, high stakes, like Prison Break, all these different things going on, and then even last week's episode was very good, to like a slower paced one, which, like I mentioned, I think it's a solid, good episode. I just don't think it was an amazing finale.
All right, let the fun begin because I couldn't be more opposite than the both of you. I think this is one of the best triumphs of Star Wars in the last 10 years. This episode, again, it's the finale and it brought everything together. I look at great series like Star Wars Rebels. You got the first season, most of it dealt with Lothal. Lothal was treated like a character more than just an environment. You have all the different functions of all that. And this is exactly what this first season was. Uh, I feel extremely satisfied from this first season because of this episode, the way it ended. You have everything, all roads lead to this exact moment in history. And this episode felt like a flashpoint. This felt like something that's going to be referenced in a lot of expanded material, maybe some future Star Wars stories. And, they're going to be talking about Ferrex. They're going to be talking about the first signs of rebellion and the people rising up in unison against tyranny. Holy crap, that Marva speech, like, that was amazing. Like, it felt like this huge moment for these people to just get this call to arms. And I was really hoping we'd see something like that because the way that they killed her off screen was very effective last week. But the way they brought it back into a hologram, every single character had something that was resolved in a way that felt, again, satisfying for me. Things with Bix, seeing how her story is moving along, seeing the effects of the torture and all that, down to something as insignificant as a droid that's actually making me emotional. Like, that doesn't happen a lot, but like, holy crap, like when that guy kicked over B2, I literally went like, I had a raw emotion, like, no, like, you gotta get, that's it, like, you knocked the droid over, it means war now. It means war because this is something that built up over time. Cyril, Dedra, when she got knocked down, I was like, clapping. I was like, yeah, take her down, like Peter, because like we just seen what she did with Bix a couple episodes, and I think she was terrible. But then to see Cyril there and to see how she visibly got shook by that whole thing, like you get to see, okay, she was all empire, and then she just seems weak all of a sudden. She's out of her element. These people are doing. The buildup was incredible. Like what this series has done so far with the tension that ratchets up. You have this marching band going through, again, the culture, the stuff about the daughters of Ferrex. So these people are marching through. It just seems like such a interesting location And man, oh man, the stuff with Mon Mothma, you don't even need more words at all. It just plays over the music. Oh my God, the music was on a, scale of 11 here. It was just hitting me in all the right ways. This episode, just, without going for too long here, there was a certain sensation I got from it that just some of the best Star Wars I felt that before, and I got that here. Like I was amped up at like 6 a.m. watching this thing, waking up people in this house because I was cheering that loud and reacting that loud, clapping at different moments, and just it really just hit me in all the right ways, and it leaves you wanting more. It's just not just a singular season. They leave us with that awesome moment with Luthen and Andor just standing there, giving him the blaster. Like there's been so many moments of these dialogue choices and everything else leading up to this, leading up to Cinta and leading up to Vel and just just seeing all the stormtroopers opening up on these people. It was just, holy crap. This is a brutal episode. People getting shanked, people just absolutely getting trampled and just innocents just killed. It was really something that was different, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. So that was my initial thoughts, and I guess we could just kind of go through in chronological order for the most part. But what did you guys think about the whole thing with? I guess we could start with the big thing with the whole speech of Marva Andor there in that better part of the episode. So I know that, Ben, you said it kind of dragged on a little bit. I could see that. I think it's just there with Cassian. It's like, okay, he's seeing the last images that he's gonna see of his mother essentially at that point.
Oh yeah, like I said, I think the speech was drug out maybe a few sentences too much. It was just drug on a little too long. But I do like the sentiment of it, and like it being kind of the trigger point, for all of this stuff to happen. Like I do like that they chose to have all of like this little like rebellion be triggered by this speech from Marva. I do like that, just because I was wondering where we were going to go with this, like how this funeral thing was going to play out, because it wasn't going to be like, someone spotting Andor or someone, like, I don't know, just something like a random blaster fire, like, I don't know, just something happening. And so it was kind of a nice surprise, actually, like that the speech was the thing that triggered this little, this like rebellion in the city. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, like I said, I thought it was a little too long, but I do like the sentiment of where it came from. I thought it was done really well. And, yeah, I just thought it was nice as well in terms of, like, say, from the Empire's point of view, it was like an unexpected, I don't know, like, what do you say, like, almost like an unexpected surprise, like, bad surprise for the Empire, because, if you think about it from their point of view, like, the stormtroopers, the Imperial officers, whatever, whoever's there from the Empire, their training is probably more, I mean, I'm sure 99% of it is toward, dealing with actual, whether it be creatures or humans or humanoids, whatever, droids. Like, I'm sure they weren't expecting a hologram to be the thing to trigger this situation. Like, in that type of a scenario, like a public setting, like the Imperials there are probably looking for, like, people trying to, like, cause an issue, like rioters or something like that. They probably weren't expecting a hologram to basically be like a secret weapon to like trigger this little rebellion. So like I thought that was a nice touch. Like it was a nice surprise. Like because a lot of times, especially in this era of Star Wars right now we're in with Andor, like the Empire is like in full control, so they're not they're just overconfident basically, like where they're not expecting to be surprised like that.
Yeah, and they do show us the whole resolution of this Anton Krieger thing, and I think that's huge in this, because at one point, Bix last episode, the episode before, was like, "Do you know this person?" It was like the image of Anton Krieger. Is he Axis? And like we don't get the answer from her, but then we get that big like thing in the episode where they're like, oh, we gotta go see this briefing, and they're all like clapping, they're all like, yeah, they're all jubilant, yeah, we took them down, they stood no chance. And of course, we've seen the last episode, like those people were just sacrificed. That was the cost of war, and that's exactly what they wanted the Empire to think. Like, yeah, we crushed this other rebellion. We're so larger than everybody else. And then you have Luthen showing up, seeing how these people are basically doing exactly what he wants them to do on Ferrix. Like, these are the things that Luthen wants. Like, these little things here and there that are eventually going to lead to a huge rebellion. But yeah, exactly. The Imperials are so overconfident in this era right now. There's not, like, think about them. Like, they're all across the galaxy. There's nothing that could happen that could possibly dethrone these people. They've been around for like 15 years at this point in full power. What are these people gonna do? And then I think it goes to show when that kid throws that bomb and that riot, it was just all hell breaks loose. Like that was again like the cool things I haven't seen in Star Wars. The fact that like we're seeing this kid building this bomb because the significance of that is like he's seen his father basically gets hanged. Like we don't see that happen, but in the previous episode, they're like, "Oh, you what you want to do? It's, oh, let's hang him." We don't see that happening, but you see the image of his father like in a hologram. This is the stuff I'm telling you. It's like all these like little minor characters, all this stuff just boiled in this episode and just blew up. Where it was like, this to me is satisfying seeing all this destruction and there's a little bit of hope in there, of course, too, with people getting the upper hand on some of these Imperials. Any words on this whole sequence with Marva there, Milton?
Speech. I mean, it was solid. I mean, it did its job. It was that quote unquote that spark. Just to quote the Last Jedi. It was that spark of what they were trying to accomplish. I mean, look, she wasn't Tony Stark from Avengers Endgame with his whole speech in hologram mode, which that's what I was thinking of the whole time, thinking, oh my god, like did they rip off Tony Stark, Love You 3000? No, it served its purpose. I didn't think the speech. I didn't think it dragged. I think it was enough time. I think they were just trying to do a build up to what they were trying to do. And now I will say, to agree with Ben on this, there were parts of this episode that did drag on. Like I felt there was parts where they could have kind of cut it down, or at least just got rid of a scene or two. But that particular section with the speech did its job. And then for the Imperial to come up and like cover up the hologram, which I was like, okay. I mean, that could piss off a lot of people, which it did. It did its job, so I'm okay with the speech.
Yeah, we got to talk about this one character that I don't think we've ever mentioned, and the character's name is Brasso. That guy is the MVP, man. That guy just gets the brick and just smashes the Imperial. This guy just big dude just comes in the front line, just smashes him. And think with Marva's own brick. Like, that's really symbolic. Like, just bashing you with the person that just held you to rise up out of her own remains, bashed across the face. But it was the brutality. Let's talk about the brutality of this episode, because some of those things we haven't seen, like somebody being shanked and the blood on her hands, like with the whole thing with Cinta. Like, what was the reaction to the overall just brutality of the episode, the maturity of it all?
I mean, for this type of show, and when obviously with what Rogue One was, I'm not surprised. Just because this is very brutal Star Wars. We're not used to seeing this often. I think this fits into the Rogue One storytelling and narrative in the sense of, it's a war film, espionage, spy, so rebellion. I'm totally for it. So was not taken back from it. It fit. Like, you couldn't have put this in. You couldn't have done this in Obi-Wan. This wouldn't have been a good fit for Obi-Wan. I felt with this particular show, yes, it worked.
Ben?
Yeah, I would say for me, I'm similar. I think the brutality of the show has been pretty good so far. Like I've thought, several points of the show really have done a really good job with it, whether it be like the stuff we've seen in this episode, like you mentioned with the shaking, the way the riot was, or even like in past episodes with like that Dr. Death guy basically just like putting people down. We saw like that sort of stuff. Like, I think the brutality has been really good. I don't know. Good's kind of a weird word to say about brutal stuff like this, but you know what I mean. Like it did its job. I would have to say and have to note though, I would love to have seen this type of brutality with the Book of Boba Fett. Like that, I think would have been incredible. But it just, yeah, I just think it did a really good job, and yeah, it can continue to like pay it off in the finale as well with everything we saw, whether it be like like we mentioned the different things that went on in the riots, and then even like just like characters like realizing like the characters in the show realizing like how brutal things were, like Deidre, for example, like she was realizing obviously like how brutal like some of the stuff is going down, like this is the reality of it versus like just working behind a desk,
Yeah.
like that sort of thing, like because she say what you want, like she's like brutal in her own right, like interrogating people, all this sort of stuff, but we up to this point the only knowledge of her we know so far is what we've seen on screen right now. So the thing is, she's kind of in the same boat as Mon Mothma, as she hasn't really got her hands dirty in the front lines yet. So it's just that was her first like on-screen thing we've seen of her getting her hands dirty, and now it's like, oh wow, now she has the realization of like what the real world is like when it comes to this sort of stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk about Dedra and Cyril. So let's just say, hey, what's gonna happen there? What are our thoughts? Do you think they're gonna just be a third party here? They're not gonna be neither for the rebellion or the Empire. Is she gonna go back to the Empire? What's gonna happen with Cyril and Milton? What about this?
He's a waste of space, like always. Like, I'm sorry, he doesn't do anything. He did nothing. And look, okay, I'll answer your first question. With these two characters, clearly, unless I'm reading it wrong, I think they're going to try to romantically link them up. I think they're going to have like a weird sexual tension that they're feeling each other, but she's always going to like be resistant to him, I think, at times. But because he just saved her, that might drive it moving forward in season 2. I don't see them going full out, but I can see there always being like that tension in season 2. As for what they're going to do individually, I can see her obviously going back to the ISB Empire. I can see him or her bringing, is it Cyril? That's how you say his name? Bringing him along, but they're going to have that weird dynamic. And I can see now that she's going to be maybe potentially questioning her role or questioning what the Empire is actually doing. I could see them changing her character slightly. As for just the overall of the characters, I like her character. I think that she's gonna bring a lot to season 2 if they make her now conflicted, because it just makes sense now moving forward. Him, I don't know what they're doing with him. I honestly don't know, because he served no purpose in this episode. Throughout this entire show, because even thinking about why they brought him to funeral, he was going to try to quote unquote capture Andor or whatever. He didn't really do nothing. I'm thinking, why do we even have him? I know I say this every week, but he serves no purpose to me.
Yeah,
and maybe I'm just not seeing it, but I'm like, what are they going to do with this guy? All he does is just stare at Debra, look for a bitch about Andor and his mom, and that's it. And he's got that weird guy with him now. It's like, bro, what are you doing?
Oh, the weird guy's also. I think we're gonna see him become one of the rebels, man. I think I can see it. He's sitting there drinking whatever he's out of his flask.
What's
He's
up?
Like, that was real,
what's
man.
up with the hat? What's up with them swapping hats? Like, I'm like, what is this? Like, that's goofy. Like, that again, I don't care what anyone tells me, he serves no purpose in the show. I'm telling it right now.
I mean, I would say, yeah, they drug out his storyline a little bit. I'll be honest, like, yeah, he could have had an episode or two where he wasn't there, and they kept showing us him to kind of remind us that he's still in the story. But yeah, I mean, anybody could have saved her. I mean, I guess his storyline's going to be dependent on her storyline in season 2 at this point.
I think so. I think now, like with him saving her, I think they're going to be tethered in season 2. It makes sense now. But even that though is like, what are they going to do with him? Because he's going to have to be all about her. Like, okay, what do you want to do? How do you want to exact your revenge on these people or on Andor or whatever? Like, because eventually they're going to figure out that Bix was taken, that she got off the planet, so they're gonna know it was him. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, what about that one about?
Yeah, I mean, as you guys were talking about it, I was thinking like I don't. You could cut all of Cyril's stuff out of the show and have basically the same result. Honestly, like just thinking about it, like you could cut virtually everything out and it'd be the same result.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, like I don't know.
It did not move the needle once narratively, except for maybe episode 1 and 2.
The first three episodes were fantastic.
I'll give you that. The first 3 episodes with him, because he was.
Well, then his story should have been wrapped.
Yes, or just say, you know what?
Let's 4 episodes. Let's say that.
Let's cut him off at 3. Take that gap, and like whatever happened to him, he gets shipped off, and then the last 3 to 4. Rebuild him up and then pay it off in season 2, but they're not going to do that unless we're just missing something.
Well, my thing is, I mean, who knows? Maybe the actor that plays him has some blackmail on Tony Gilroy and is like, hey, you got to put me as front and center in your show. But no, like I think like realistically, I think so. You have his whole interaction with Deidre, and like you said, Milton, it's going to be some like weird tension that goes on that's not going to be acted on because she's going to be too like rough and tough about things, I think. And my thing with her is like, so Chris, you mentioned maybe she'll like, I don't know, potentially move on from the Empire or maybe something along those lines. I think it's going to be the total opposite. Personally, I think she's going to use this like. We just got off the brutality topic of the show. I could see the opening episode of the show of season 2, maybe like her commanding a whole Death Trooper squad to go in and just wipe out a town or something. Like something to like really like, hey, my character's pissed off, so I'm gonna like show the power of the Empire type deal. Like like the Empire likes to lay the law down. I mean, we saw it. Heck, you talk about brutal stuff. We saw in Rebels when Thrawn just starts wiping out that city, like stuff like that. Like the Empire doesn't care. So like my thing is with this show, the tone of this show and everything, I think we're gonna see her do something like that. Like bring in the Death Troopers to maybe this town again and just wipe them off the map or something. Like because I just don't. I don't know. I feel like with her, like how. Like angry her character is, like especially even earlier on in the series when she was like, you could just like feel the hatred of her toward the rebels when she's like gave that really cool speech in like episode 3 or 4 where she's like they're just like everywhere, blah blah blah, whatever she says in that whole thing, like you could just feel like her hatred for the rebellion. So my thing is, I think she's gonna. It'll be like hey, we're going to lay the Empire's full force down on some town to like make an example.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly a possibility, but I could be like, none of this crap is worth this trouble.
Oh yeah, I could see it go that way as well.
The Empire, I'm like, out of here. My life. I got PTSD, right? That's a huge thing. Like sees that like, yeah, I'm not putting my life on the line anymore. Let's get the hell out of here. I don't.
I mean, hey, and then maybe she's got a man. She's got Cyril.
But let's talk about the titular character, and that is Cassian Andor. This was awesome. Like, this is the Cassian that I recognized from Rogue One. Fearless, brave, courageous. Just I think most of us would probably do what he did for the most part. Like, yeah, he's gonna go. Your loved one died. You're gonna go pay your respects, whether or not it's dangerous or not. You're gonna make a way to get back there, whether it's a smart idea or a bad idea. And we have that conversation of like him in the sewers with Brasso, and it's just like, yeah, this is the last Brasso's like this last place you want to be right now, and it's just like, he's there for her, and we did not realize that the last time they spoke was going to be in that manner of like, hey, you're a hero, you got to do that thing, we can't be together. And it's like, damn, like that hits harder now because of that. But the whole thing, the whole rescue with Bix, yeah, that was awesome. Like that really shows you the type of good guy he is deep down. Like in the beginning of this season, he was he had every one of his so-called friends had a grudge against him because he owed everybody money, and he was like this dirty dude that's just just making these terrible schemes and different things. And now we get to see him as the hero. So I really felt that we got to see so much selflessness. You got to see from episode 1 to episode 2, he's putting his life on the line for a cause, and it's paying off. So I really like to see from episode 1 to episode 12 here the transformation of Andor into the Andor that we know.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this particular episode with his development, you're right. I have to agree. It reminded me of what we were seeing, what we're going to see in Rogue One. Um, I think that final scene was really something that you can tell. It kind of reminded me of the end of Rogue One, how he was okay with dying. Like
Hmm.
I think at this point he knows like he has nothing. He's on borrowed time. So he was willing to say, hey, if you want to kill me, kill me. I'll make it easy on you. And
Hmm.
I think he just gets it. And it reminded me of the end of Rogue One, where he's like, listen, with Jen, your father will be proud. He doesn't have family, so he knows his time is up. He's just a piece to this rebellion. He isn't the rebellion. Um, but I liked how him and Luthen had that exchange at the end. You can clearly see that Luthen is like, okay, I now have someone who has nothing to lose. I love how that comes for full circle. No,
Yeah.
Cassian did a good job in this episode with his character. I love where we're going with him. I thought he's the strongest part of this particular episode, in my opinion. Just him dealing with his emotions,
Hmm.
but also still being a hero, trying to do the right thing, but saying, hey, you know what? If it's my time to go. I've lived for this. My family's done. Let's just be done with this. But
That,
hey,
yeah.
we'll see what happens in season 2.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And going into that, like, there's the whole part of the manifesto from Nemec, and I was waiting to see the payback. We got that all the way in episode 5 when he was telling about the manifesto, and we haven't seen anything. We know he had the manifesto, but it was really cool to be able to hear Nemec's voice again and to see that these are the seeds that are being laid into Andor's decision for the rebellion. And he's learning, like, this dude got me this information and he's making sense with how the Empire is. Hell, I would like to just get an audio file of everything the guy said. Like, come on, Lucasfilm, put out a podcast of Nemec's version of the galaxy with the Empire or something, whatever you want to call it. But Ben, what did you think about this whole thing with him being in the ship with that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was done really well. It was cool, like you said, that it tied back to that earlier episode, and then just everything with Cassian, I thought was done really well. Like Milton mentioned, he was for sure the strongest character of the episode by far, I would say, because there have been other episodes, we've talked about it in the past where it was like, man, Cassian's the title character, but he's not the main character of his own couple episodes here. Like some of the episodes felt like it was like Cyril or Deidre or whoever, and now it actually felt like it was Cassian's episode, which is nice. And then just seeing, like you guys mentioned, him going through all his emotions and dealing with like everything, especially like the fact that there's probably like different angles you could think about it. Like him going back there with all those emotions could also be like he's going back there to obviously see his loved one's funeral, but he's also going back there because it's like, what do you got to lose? So like he's
Mm-hmm.
probably thinking, well, if I get killed, I get killed. It doesn't matter. I mean, I've lost everything else. So like, what's it
Mm-hmm.
really matter at this point? So it's cool like getting to see his like emotions that way, and then of course his interaction with Luthen was done really well. Like that reminded me of another show. I don't remember what show or movie it was, but it's just that whole thing of like the hero asking just like, hey, kill me, if you want, like go
Yeah.
ahead, like type deal. Like you've seen that happen before in other situations and other movies. So like in other shows. So it was cool getting to see that. And then I think they're going to use this as like a springboard as well to kind of like leapfrog certain steps of Cassian in the rebellion. Like, now in the rebellion for sure. Obviously, like the interaction went out with Luthen, like he's fully into it. So my thing is, I think it's going to be kind of one of those like, implications. He's fully in the rebellion, and then boom, we jump right into a mission with him in season 2 of the show. You know what I mean? Like it's going to skip all those like little nitty gritty steps. I think we're going to jump right into something where it's going to be, whatever mission it may be. I think that's what they're going to use this scene as a springboard to, like Luthen assigning him to some mission, and he's just like kind of buying into it.
Yeah, well, we did get confirmation this week from Tony Gilroy that season 2 is going to pick up a year after this event.
Oh, yep. Hey, there we go. I didn't even see that quote, and I just said that.
So, yeah, I think that makes sense. And, I mean, I'm also intrigued, but also worried about season 2 because I love season 1 so much that I love the formula, but to know that it's going to be sped up to have, like, arcs that are separated by a year. It's going to be sort of like what House of the Dragon did to a certain degree. I just hope we don't lose too much character development and cool stuff in the way because, Ferrix is basically going to be that. We got that synopsis a while back in one of the magazines where there's a blurb like, yeah, season 1 is just based on one planet. Season 2 is going to be like all over. So I think that's part of the charm with this season. We're just talking about episode 12 today, but episode 12 is basically all on Ferrix, and the culmination of the story on Ferrix is just like, yeah, this is one of the reasons why this show was so special to me is because Ferrix was done so well. I mean, they built this set out there in the UK somewhere, and it wasn't even on the volume barely, and all the characters, like you even get to see the one character that basically got that alien guy in episode 1 or 2 to like try to back him up to get the money out of Andor. And it's that like minor character that ended up selling Andor's like location to the Imperials. So it's stuff like that I really enjoy. Like they took the time to give this guy a little bit of a backstory, and they called him back from episode 2 all the way back in episode 12. It's like, this is the kind of stuff I love when you build up this community of people on Ferrix that you can't get that from like a 3-episode arc and have that kind of like aha moment sort of thing.
Oh yeah, we're definitely like season 2 of this show is definitely going to be, I would say, more upbeat, just naturally from the overall progression of the show. Because like you said, with each arc being in a year, like a year per arc per 3 episodes, like it's naturally going to be sped up just because it'll be like they'll have to tell like Cassian / Luthen stuff / Mon Mothma stuff going on as well. So like, we're going to have a lot of stories, I think, speeding up, and probably I would say just naturally a little bit more action since it's leading up more and more to the events of Rogue One. So it'll be more like action packed. Yeah, I just think, well, here's another one too, guys, just to throw out there. So, okay, so based off of like A New Hope's line, like, like the rebels like coming off their first victory in Rogue One, okay? Mm-hmm. So maybe we're going to get some big battle in season 2 for Andor, like the rebellion try to do a big fight and then they get taken out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or get you know what I mean? Get like stamped out basically. Like I think we're going to get something like that because their first victory was Rogue One. So it's just, what is going to, we have to get something where they lose. Because right now, Luthen's basically 1-0 right now. He's up. He's winning right now. So, like, we got to end this series with them losing, but it's probably going to be on, like, a positive note, obviously. But they're going to have to be in, like, the loss column, basically, heading into Rogue One.
Yeah. I mean, that's because we see, right, in Rogue One, the War Council scene, like, none of those advisors are quick to fighting. So they're going to build up the reason why. Like, I think that's a great point, Ben. It's like, all right, why are they timid? Why are they anxious? Well, we've tried this before, and we've lost tons of money in preparation and time and tons of people dead because we weren't prepared. So why are we going to go with this girl and her father's plans? Like, what kind of stability do we have going into this knowing our odds of success are greater than last time?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot there. But, again, going back to this episode, Let's talk about the post credit scene a little bit. Now, Milton, did you know that there was a post credit scene?
Yes, I did. I
All right,
watched it.
cool, because I know it fooled some people on the podcast.
Yep.
No,
I'll take accountability for that one. I didn't find out there's a post credit scene until yesterday. I was sitting there at Thanksgiving, and my uncle actually watches this show, and he's enjoying it so far. But or well, one of them my uncles are, but he was like, "Oh, so what do you think of the post credit scene on Andor?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, didn't you see it? There was." And I went to the sunroom and turned on my grandma's smart TV and fast forwarded to the end and was like, "Oh, dang, I did not know that was there." So yeah, I didn't expect that. But Milton.
I think there's two things with this. So one, I liked it. It was a nice post. I mean, it ties into so much. I mean, look, it's the Death Star that makes sense. Like it makes sense that they're building the Death Star on this period because they have to. You know, if any fan is saying, "Oh, the Death Star is back," that's BS. Blah blah blah. I'm like, wait a minute. It's 5 years before New Hope. When do you think they're going to build this thing? It's going to take 20 years. They were starting to build this at the during. I guess they had the plans constructed during Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
They started building this during the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So it took 20 years. So it makes sense if you actually use your heads. I've seen people bitch about this online, like, oh,
Wow.
why would they show this? That's unnecessary. It's like, wait a minute, like, you guys understand with Rogue One, Andor is pretty much building his weapon of death. He's building his own weapon. How crazy is that? He had no idea. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
so looking at it that way, it's like, all right, that's kind of like ironic, but
Oh.
actually, but very poetic too. It's he's a man on borrowed time. So I like the scene. I thought it made sense. It was cool to see how they build it with those little nano robots. So that was
Yeah,
dope.
those are new.
Yeah, I loved it. I think, did we need to have this particular scene? No, we didn't need to see this, but it worked. Now, I think we could have gotten this maybe in season 2 sometime. Again, this works for season 1, so I'm not complaining about it. It wasn't necessary, but it's okay for what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
They think they wanted to remind people who haven't seen Rogue One yet to say, wait a minute, it's a reason why he was in that prison. It's a
Yeah.
so then go back and watch the next movie or whatever, or watch the Rogue One movie now. So I like it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was really cool, seeing it a day later, but I thought it was really neat getting to see it. And then like you mentioned, Milton, like the little nano robot things, those were cool seeing those working on it. And just getting kind of a I don't know, like a real perspective more of the Death Star, and then like it zooming out, it showing it and all that. Like I thought that was cool camera work. And yeah, I mean, heck, Chris, like I saw some people talking about that when Milton brought up about the Death Star even being in it, because it's like it's I I don't like we're at a point with fandom with Star Wars or with Marvel or DC where it's like people have the view of if there's a cameo, whether it be a vehicle or a character or whatever, it's just fan service. My thing is, fan service is not a bad thing if it's done well. And this, in particular, with the Death Star, is done well. It makes sense to be in this series. Like, you know what would have been fan service? What would have not made sense? To have Vader go down and slaughter the whole funeral, all those funeral people. That would have not made sense. That would have been fan service. But like the Death Star making a cameo, basically, like that's not fan. I mean, it's fan service, but it's not bad fan service because it makes sense to the story. The story is about the Death Star. Like Cassian was working on the Death Star, like on parts of it, anyways. Like, and then this whole thing is building up to the Death Star. So like, I thought it was really cool, and I saw no issue with having it at the end of the show.
Yeah, what I liked about it is we haven't gotten the stuff from the prison since like episode 10 or something like that.
Yep.
So we've been far removed for a couple weeks, and it's a good reminder. What I liked about this is a reminder. It's not tied to a specific character per se, But it's like, oh yeah, by the way, guys, like here's this being made in the background, and if you know your Star Wars lore, this connects to Rogue One, and that's all about this thing. And by the way, your lead character was working on this thing, this death machine. As Milton said, ironic how he's working on his own machine that kills him. So yeah, it's cool because it puts it in perspective, right? Just laying the groundwork and being like, yeah, this is dealing with one of the icons of Star Wars. Like, you have Darth Vader. People recognize that. People recognize the lightsaber. People recognize the Death Star, even if they haven't really watched Star Wars. A lot of people could be like, hey, isn't that from Star Wars? Yeah, so this is a story that is in the Star Wars timeline, and it tells you exactly where it is in the timeline in case you forget. We are in that era right now. So it's cool, and I like the play on the perspective, Ben, like you said, like, okay, really zoomed in. Okay,
Yep.
what
I
the
like
hell's
that a
this?
lot, actually.
Yep. And it's just very
Right.
like the cinematography of like the last shot of like the different layers of the dish
Yes.
being put in. And it's interesting because it's like we kept hearing in Rogue One, it's like director Krennic is like, why has the work slowed and all this sort of thing. It's like maybe season 2 we'll find out why the work slowed, because right
Right.
now it looks like the damn thing's just about done already. So what the hell is taking all the time? And go back to last week, and we go back to the week before, Melshi was like, we got to tell people about this. We got to tell people about this. So I have a feeling like Melshi eventually is going to be in a rebellion. Saul's going to catch wind of this, and then Saul is going to start causing problems for like the supply lines and the supply chains, because they can't know what the Death Star is. That's not possible. They know that they were working on a machine of some sort, so maybe they find out some of the supply places, and that's like one of the early battles. One is like hitting these little things to slow down the logistics of building this thing, even though they don't know really what they're slowing down in the first place. Like little hit and run tactics, little Robin Hood things of stealing weapons and stuff and giving them to the poor. Like we know the X-Wings were originally going to be made for the Empire, then they get turned over to the Rebellion. So like little things like that, I could see like a season 2, like each one of those arcs is going to have something to do with like slowing down production or something in a little way or something.
Yeah, I like that idea. I agree. But no, but back to your point, I think it was you, Ben, saying about people being, was it, did you use the term fickle? Is that what you said?
Like,
Or
oh, like people, like Milton. A lot of people instantly jump to the whole fan service thing. Fan service, a Death Star being in a Rogue One spinoff show is fan service, and I'm like, wait, no, it's not. And like, to me, bad, like fan service can be good if it's done well with the story, but it can also be bad. Like, my example of it being bad would be, you have this big funeral outbreak riot and have Darth Vader pop in and just slaughter everybody.
right,
That'd be
yeah,
fan service. That'd
that's
be fan
bad.
service. But continue.
I'm about to say, I just want to say, just to build off of that, is that, I think you're right. I think we're in a day and age where, fans just aren't satisfied, or they have to have
Yep.
an opinion on what Star Wars should or is. Look, and I think all the three of us are all guilty of it at times. I have an imagination of what the sequel trilogy should look like. Okay, and that's maybe my own doing of the books and everything that I've read. But I'm trusting a man in Tony Gilroy who, one, has saved this original movie of Rogue One and made it what it was. And clearly, he knows Star Wars, even though he says he's not a fan. He clearly
Oh yeah.
knows what he's doing. This is a well-received show. I think the way he's put things into, whether it's quote unquote fan service or not, it serves a purpose. So for all those fans out there who are just complaining about the Death Star being unnecessary, okay, fine. It serves a purpose. There's a reason why it's in here. It pays off in the Rogue One movie. It pays off in A New Hope. It pays off in Return of the Jedi. So like it needs to be there. Like it's not like we're
Yep.
making it up. We're like,
Yeah.
oh man, you're right. Yeah, if Vader showed up at the funeral, like that makes no sense. Or if like Yoda decided to show up just to be seen, like come on. Or if Yoda was
Yeah.
communicating with Marva through the Force, why would he do that? That's fan service. Like again,
Let's keep it real here, guys. If that happened, we all three would never watch the show again.
facts. I'd be like, okay, I'm done.
Like
Yeah.
yeah.
You
But
know what I'm
continue,
saying?
Milton. Sorry.
Now I will say they threw a little they threw a little tidbit in there of this might have been fan service, and I kind of like had to like perk my head up because I was like, what the hell? Whenever Mon Mothma was meeting with her husband, and I think we can talk. Can we talk about the scene then, Chris? After I
let's
make
go
this
ahead.
point,
Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah.
Canto Bite. Did she mention that? And
Well,
I
yeah.
was like, no one cares about that stupid ass planet.
No, that was a great reference.
But I say that's fan service, but I think it served its purpose. And this is where I'm going to get into what me liking the scene. She knew her driver was listening. You could tell. And I think she was trying to set up the driver, be like, oh, well, she thinks the husband's out here gambling and acting a fool, and she's dropping Canto Bite. Because, again, we didn't know what Casino Planet was before The Last Jedi. So now we know. So it makes sense that they will put it in there now. We're like, okay, we know a lot of people go to, like, a lot of, like, degenerates go there. So it makes sense. So I guess they're trying to strengthen Canto Bites.
Oh, they've been doing it for years. The publishing, that's been known. That's why I perked up. I was like,
and
oh, there we go.
I think with this particular sound bite, they're trying to strengthen. Okay, like Canto Bite isn't like the greatest place. It's like degenerates and rich folks just throw their money away, blah blah blah. So yeah, I was like, all right, man, do we need to have that reference in there? But I see why they did it, and then I actually did like the whole entire scene.
I would say, like, no matter how I feel about The Last Jedi, that I can't say that was bad fan service because it was done well. Like it did its job. It did its job. No matter how we feel about Canto Bite, like I think it was done in a good job, and it did. It made my ears perk up. I was like, oh, they referenced that. So like I just don't think. I think we've gotten to a point with a lot of these things with the fan service topic where it's like now I think there's a crowd of people where it's just like they see a cameo, they hear a name, they see a ship, and they instantly blindly say fan service, it's bad. And it's not. Like to me that's such a generic argument when it comes to stuff like this because if we want to talk fan service of all things, I mean, then again, I guess Vader was great fan service. Then to Rogue One because the Death Star plans were important, like they were the highest priority.
But here's the thing about that though. See, I disagree with that. I think that he was necessary because in the beginning of New Hope, who's the first person we see walking onto that ship?
Yeah, that's true.
It's Vader.
That's actually...
Vader. Yeah, Vader is in full hunt mode in the beginning of New Hope. When the stormtroopers are blowing through, what's the ship? Oh my God, I know this. Yeah, thank you. The cruiser. And Vader is all like, and look at his armor. His armor's like that faded, scarred up, and you can see he just got out of dealing with the blaster fight in the hallway of trying to get the planet. So to me, that makes sense. So
yeah. Oh, well, here's a better example of a fan service, and I know this is one that bugs Chris. Is C-3PO in Rogue One like his little or when the ship's flying and you see 3PO and R2 standing there, it's kind of like that's kind of like where it's like, okay, like do you really need that? Like to me that sort of stuff is kind of like fan service, like haha, look there. But I just think, I don't know, like as Star Wars fans and as like movie fans, it just bugs me to see people like, because that's constantly an argument on social media. Like you mentioned, Milton, I saw people complaining about the Death Star. I really did. And it's like, just because it's a recognizable thing that's integral to the characters we're dealing with, that doesn't mean it's fan service. That means it's part of the story.
Yeah.
Like for me, for me, I think realistically, it wouldn't surprise me one bit, and it would fit the story. It would be fan service in a good way. But if we get Orson Krennic in season 2, it would make sense if he's checking in on the Death Star.
He needs to be there. It wouldn't shock me if he's in it, or if we get a glimpse of Galen Erso. Because at this point, Galen. What did you say? Arkin, yeah, whomever. Like, if we start getting these characters, and they don't got to be in 4 or 5 episodes, we can see them in one episode and pay it off because
Hmm.
we know how they're going to play out in
as
the
a
next movie.
hologram.
Exactly. And even with the Death Star, again, what is everyone's favorite part of the show thus far? We all can agree the episodes in the prison. All can agree and
Yep.
how they were really tying or like talking about, oh, you got to build these things, build these things. You got to do this so you can win the shift of the day or whatever. That has been paid off with that cameo because
Hmm.
the first shot we see of that post credit are those things that they were building. And you're like, oh, we've seen those before. And you get the nano robots moving them. You're like, oh, wait, what are they using these for? And all of a sudden, oh my God, they're building a satellite dish. This is crazy. So pretty much that prison was building the Death Star dish, and
Hmm.
we love that particular scenes, and it paid. It all comes in full circle. It paid off.
Hmm.
Like if anyone's complaining about that, you clearly didn't pay attention to the show because
Yeah.
that whole anyone would tell you that whole arc of the prison was dope.
Yeah. Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
100%. I just think a lot of it just comes back to, we live in like a time with social media where it's like, people are so obsessed with like live tweeting and live posting while they're watching, and I think they get caught up and miss like little details like that. And it's just, to me, it's better to like feed off on social media. You don't get, to me, you don't get publicity if you go and post something positive. You get likes, you get comments if you post something negative. It's like, to me, it's like if I post something, say, like strongly hating on the Death Star being in this show, it's likely to get more comments and likes than it would be if I love the Death Star in this. Like, like it just is, like, unfortunately, but
Right.
that's how it's gotten to be with a lot of this, like, fan service type of
Hmm.
discussion. But it's just crazy, like you said, Milton, when I started looking into the word Death Star on Twitter and stuff, like, just seeing people like talking about I would have never imagined in a million years seeing Star Wars fans complaining about the Death Star. But it's like, are we at this point?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the problem is too a lot of people who tend to do the live tweeting or whatever, the responses that they get are the people that don't even watch the show. Just like, oh man,
yeah,
that's in it. Not watching it. Yeah,
that's Star Wars again. Star
I
Wars
was
again.
thinking about
Fan
watching it,
service.
but I was gonna
Yeah,
binge it, but I ain't watching it now. And it's like, you know what? If you haven't seen it, like go stay in your mom's basement. You know what I'm saying? Get out of here with that because like if you can't make an independent opinion or thought before even like or
Hmm.
just stop. Just stop. Get off the internet. That's why I don't get on Twitter on those first day or two of the episode's release because I'm thinking like, I'll wait until I can settle down and watch it myself. Then I'm going to look at the reactions and see all the analysis and breakdowns. Like it's just I know myself. I need to
well,
see it with fresh eyes.
exactly. I mean, a big example of that is, like, out of us three here on the podcast, from, you started out, Milton, you started episode 1, took you to episode 12 to fully confirm your opinion about Cyril.
There we go.
Yeah. Listen, I'm just listen, man. I was trying. Like I was trying, and again, never paid off for me.
To me, I just think, like, man, we always get into funny serial topics, but to
Yep.
me, okay, I just have to say this. Like, if Tony Gilroy or any of the cinematographers are watching this at this point in this show, just whoever it is, please stop just putting the camera straight onto his face, because, like, I feel like we see him staring in the camera so much, and it's just like, just stop that. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just hope, I do hope, though, honestly, with his character, like, I hope it turns into something. Like we can't go through 12 more episodes with him just doing nothing, right? Like, he's gotta either, like, do something maybe to sway Deidre into, like, I could honestly see his character going the route of being like, okay, so say season 2, I could see Deidre, like, still being bad or something, and then his character being kind of like the trying to pull her toward the good side, like, oh wow, look how bad how brutal the Empire is, blah blah blah. You need to pull away from it. You need to pull away from it. And then finally, she does, like, halfway through the season, and decides to leave with him. Like, I could see something along those lines. But I think, as you mentioned with his character earlier, Milton, I think there's going to be something there in season 2. Like, there has to be.
Yeah, you can't have that much screen time on somebody that doesn't evolve a whole lot by the end of it.
You'd
Clearly
hope.
you
You'd
can.
hope.
Clearly you can, because it works. Because it worked for him. Like oh my god, dude. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to anyone listening or watching. I know I've been bitching about this character all season. But, like I'm sorry. Like it's the truth.
Yeah, I mean it's true. Hey, maybe by the end of season 2, Milton will be able to cut all of his scenes out of the show and like splice them together as one little mini serial movie to post. Because it's
Oh
just
my
His
like
mom.
gosh.
His mom was more interesting than him. His mother had more like character. Just being honest.
I think the best scene that we had of his was whenever it was when they first saw the Aldani stuff on the news. That was cool seeing the actual like the galactic news. I
Yeah,
thought
the
that was
hollow
cool
feed.
seeing that. I really did because
HoloNet.
like say what you want but like I've said, I mean we'll get into the full season next week, but to me I think that was one of the coolest little details of this entire show was actually seeing like a news station in Star Wars because we've never seen that before. So I thought that was a really cool thing
All right.
to add.
Yeah, again, like
But
what this show did well, and we'll get into it next week, is just like showing the everyday man and showing like the people that aren't the Jedi and the big generals of the war. What do these people do? What's their everyday life like? What are their jobs like? The people that make up the galaxy and it adds really to it because when you know what the heroes are fighting for, the everyday man, what their life is like under the Empire and how oppression happens, then you have more context going back or watching the original trilogy, which is all about the big shots. Now you know what these guys are fighting for. So shows like Andor are helping us watch that. Shows like Star Wars Rebels are helping improve that rewatchability that is Star Wars.
oh, for sure, it just builds the roots of the rebellion and the
Hmm.
roots of like a lot of the stuff in the galaxy, and then of course we're going to be getting a lot of that with Mon Mothma, and I think we saw with her we saw so much of her like in this show. Well, we saw a good amount of her in this show, but I think we're going to get more of that next season. Like I really do, just because it's like we got a lot of the build up stuff with. I think Cassian, of course, we got the action stuff, of course, because he's an action packed character. But with Mon Mothma, I think now we've gotten out of the way the stuff I've been saying all season. Like now she finally realizes she has to get her hands dirty. Now her character is rolling.
Yeah.
Agree.
Oh yeah. She sacrificed her family at this point for the success of the rebellion. So that's a huge, huge milestone in her life to be like, okay, there's no coming back from this. I'm kind of a crazy person for having to do this. Although maybe her daughter doesn't think like this is the end of the world. Her daughter is just like, okay, let's do this. Like, whatever. This is just the customs. I'm just doing the customs of my planet. But meanwhile, it's the guilty conscience of Mon Mothma that's going to live on with her into the New Republic, basically, of like, yeah, I had to sacrifice a lot to get this thing here, and this is why I'm going to die if I have to get this thing off the ground at this point, because I already sacrificed too much. My family.
Well,
Now.
well, it's like the whole thing. I mean, none of us have kids, but it's like when a parent's like a kid's wanting to do something, and it's like a parent knowingly like letting their kid go into a situation that long term it's not going to be good. It's not going to be a good type thing. Like for example, my sister, she was in a toxic relationship years ago, and we all told her, "Hey, it's not good for you, not good for you, not good for you." And then eventually we just had to like let her go, let her deal with it, and then eventually they ended up breaking up. And like that's kind of like with Mon Mothma and her daughter. It's like she knows the type of situation that an arranged marriage like she's in leads to, and that's kind of what she's basically like. Well, she's gonna have to give her daughter up and basically like let her daughter learn like what happens, like the repercussions of it long term. Because in theory, I mean, who knows? Maybe like sure, Mon Mothma talked disparagingly now as her being older about those customs, but maybe when she was like 14, 13, 15, maybe she was fine with it back then when she was a kid. And then now like as she's older, it'll be kind of a same like cycle repeating with her daughter.
Mm. Yeah. So there's that. There's that. Mon Mothma is yeah. I mean, we've seen from the beginning of, I guess it was episode 4 to episode 12. We've seen that arc play out. I like how you put it, Andor. Ben, about Andor. How Andor's got the action sequences. Mon Mothma, we have a lot of momentum for this character that all she's really been doing is just like sitting, standing, and taking a speeder here and there every once in a while. So not a lot of action, but a lot of action in terms of like her development and how she has changed, and especially how she's getting in deep with Luthen to even back out now with what happened with Aldani. We get to see that moment of her reaction of like, oh crap, I didn't think it was going to be this serious, and now we are sacrificing a marriage proposal and an arrangement and all this.
Well, one more thing on the Mon Mothma stuff, and like, you know, I'm sure Milton will like it. Like, I think with Mon Mothma, the good thing about her wrapping the story with her daughter up, basically, is now the daughter is probably not going to be in season 2. Like, I feel like she's out of the picture. So now we're going to be getting Mon Mothma maybe in action. Maybe, I don't know, maybe someone tries to take her out. Maybe, like, just something. I think we're going to get more, like, action, obviously not Andor's, not Cassian style action, but you know, more stakes action, if that makes sense for Mon Mothma. Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yep, go ahead, Milton.
I was say I can see that too. I mean, it just either she's going to get more action packed, or just I don't know, she'll be making more moves behind the scenes that's more impactful besides just being the money person. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm excited for her character. She was one of my favorite characters. Like I said, she's gorgeous. I love seeing her on screen. Like, she's hard not to look at. But I love that actress. Like how they portray her. So yeah, I love it.
Hey, Genevieve O'Reilly, man. That's Mon Mothma, man. I mean, it's a different actress completely, obviously, but it's just like Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan. You just watch and yeah, that's Obi-Wan. That's Ben Kenobi.
Yeah. Oh, there's no difference like with the characters. Like they casted her so perfectly. You know, you can just see the transition to the Mon Mothma we get in Return of the Jedi. Like, you can picture her being older and looking like that. Like, that's how it is with Ewan to Alec Guinness. Like, to me, there's no, like, one Obi-Wan over the other for me. It's like, I just see them all as one character at this point.
Is there any last topics or details you guys want to talk about with this episode?
I don't know. I mean, I think we covered a lot. I think overall, I mean, this episode, it served its purpose. You know, and I'll give I guess I'll just give my thoughts. If you want to rate and give my thoughts right now, Chris, it's up to you.
I was gonna go over a quick nitpick, but
okay.
No, you go ahead.
There was a thread going on Twitter. People coming up with nitpicks. Nitpicks are fine, but it's just funny. Bricks and stuff like that are, you if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But I was like, screw it. If people are gonna nitpick about bricks and nails, I'm gonna nitpick about damn stormtroopers. So here's my soapbox. Death Troopers, why aren't they threatening anymore? We see them in Mandalorian. We see them in Rebels. They're getting picked off like every other trooper. These guys are supposed to be the SEAL Team 6 of the Star Wars galaxy. How are they getting picked off like nothing? That's my little gripe.
Well, oh no, that's 100% true. That's not even a little gripe. That's a big gripe. It's like I think that's like a company-wide thing. Luckily Mando did pretty well with I guess those are Dark Troopers though.
No, Death Troopers in episode 8.
Oh, were those Death Troopers in Mando?
Yeah. They went in to try to get Grogu and all them, and they just got picked off.
Oh yeah, see, I was thinking those were. Oh well, no, I guess I was thinking more. What I was meaning more along the lines of was like the Dark Troopers from season 2. That's what I was thinking of. But yeah, those are Dark Troopers. Never mind. But yeah, even there you go. There's another example in Mando season 1. Like, the Death Troopers aren't doing anything. Like I I don't know. It's just a gripe of mine because it's for action figures. That's all it is. Like I
Yeah.
just don't like it. Like it's
Here's the
just
thing,
like
though.
please.
Here's the thing, though. That's not you being weird, and this goes back to my gripe about how they set up the sequel trilogy movies, because we're not the ones making this up in our headcanon about how nice somebody is or where a story should go. They did this. Okay, they set up
Yeah.
the Death Troopers to be badasses, like you just said, Chris. You said SEAL Team 6, Army Rangers, Marines, like the best of the best. We are thinking that they set it up that way, that the Death Troopers are the elite of the elite. So we know they're not missing you when they shoot. They show that in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Rogue One, when they got off that ship, you knew it was over because
They
people
just
were getting.
start blasting people.
I mean,
Uh-huh.
everyone's going left and right. So I'm thinking, okay, they're nice. Even in weren't they in Rogue One? No, Rebels or something. They were in one of the animation shows,
Rebels.
and they were doing their thing. And it's like, okay, these troopers are for real. And then all of a sudden, like they get depowered the last couple times we've seen them. It's like, what are we doing?
I
So
know.
and again, that's not us being crazy. That's Star Wars setting it up that way. Just like with Force Awakens, everyone said, okay, this is the Force Awakens. This is where the story is going to potentially go. And all of a sudden, you get the Last Jedi, and it's like, wait a minute, why are we doing this when this was in here? It's not me making this up. It's what JJ set up. So it's Star Wars
Yeah.
and Disney that are making these own-headed weird pivots, and then they get mad at the fans for saying, "What are you doing to these characters?"
It's
You know what I'm saying?
funny.
Like, what
It's just
are you doing to
weird.
the narrative? What are you doing to the narrative? It's like, no, you guys set it up for us to think this.
It's funny because I think I see a couple confirmed kills from a rank and file stormtrooper, but the Death
Yeah.
Trooper doesn't even get crap to do. Stormtroopers
Yeah.
are
I
supposed
get
to miss, not the Death Troopers. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there for almost
Yeah.
comedic sake. But hey,
Yeah.
I guess
No.
you guys agree with me more than I expected. So
I don't know. I mean, it makes sense though because like stuff like that. That's not nitpicking. Like to me, I really don't care like much about like people's nitpicking because it's like, hey, everyone has an opinion. Like some people may think the Death Troopers are getting played out just fine, and that's cool. But to me, like I don't know. We've had a lot of that, in my opinion, under this umbrella and iteration of Star Wars of really cool looking characters that don't do anything. Like the Death Troopers are one of those characters. I mean, look, one of the prime, most like, in my opinion, egregious examples of it is what's her name? Gwendolyn Christie.
oh, Captain Phasma.
Captain Phasma. Captain Phasma. That was so egregious. Like her character was marketed. I remember one quote specifically literally said, "She's the new Boba Fett."
Yep.
And it was like, holy smokes, that's the farthest thing from like she didn't do anything. And then she gets like knocked out or whatever in The Last Jedi and taken out. Like, and it's like, dude, like I just don't like them hyping up characters. Obviously, like I said, it's for marketing and toy sales. Like that's all it is at this point with
We
some of
gotta-
that stuff. Because it's like,
Yeah.
to me as a fan, when you go and hype up cool looking characters, especially characters like with cool armor, cool blasters or whatever, we want to see those characters in action. We don't want to see them just get taken out in 2 seconds. Like to me, even if you're going to have, say, the Death Troopers get taken out in this episode one way or another, at least have them get like some type of an action sequence, like something really cool to show they're threatening versus just getting taken out. So it's just like, I don't know, maybe this is like Death Troopers phase 1.5 and then phase 2 is in Rogue One or something. Like maybe this is like the early-ish Death Troopers. I don't know. Like hopefully it is.
Yeah, but hey, maybe one of these weeks we should do like a rank of the new cool trooper editions based on what they actually accomplish. You got the Praetorian Guards, you got the Knights of Ren, you got the Death Troopers. Those
the
are
Knights of Ren, that's another example.
Praetorian Guards
Yeah.
actually got a couple scratches on some characters at least, so that's something.
Yeah.
But I'll turn it back to you, Milton. I know you wanted to talk about your final thoughts and score out of 10, unless we have any other little things to mention here.
No, I mean, I thought this was a solid
Mm-hmm.
it was a solid episode. It did its job. It wasn't trash. It's just to me, it was up and down at times, but it did what it needed to do. I am excited for season 2. I just felt that this episode could have been stronger and tighter in a lot of ways. If I had to give this a score out of 10, it's a solid 7.75.
7.75. Did your score go higher or lower, or were you at that confirmation of a score before the discussion even began?
It was around an 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. I mean, I was expecting a lot lower of a score based on what you said immediately. So almost an 8 out of 10 is pretty good. Pretty good. All right, Ben.
Yeah, I would say for me, I thought the episode was solid. To me, yeah, it was just that. It was just solid. It was an all right episode. It wasn't incredible. It wasn't awful. It was just solid. Like, it had some good moments in it for, Cassian specifically, of course. I feel like he was the standout of the episode. And then, of course, getting some more stuff with like getting Deidre out and about. Like, that's always interesting. Like, I always find that really interesting, just like when the Imperial type people get out and about, versus just seeing stormtroopers. Like I think one of my most favorite shots, like I know this is like a side tangent, but it's kind of connected at least. One of my favorite shots in terms of like under like the Disney umbrella of Star Wars is like, I love the opening of Rogue One, like seeing Krennic like walk out in that planes. Like, I just think it just looks cool, the Imperial get up out in public. So, it's great getting the Imperials more out and about in this episode. And then the Marva speech, albeit I thought it was a little long, I think it was a nice spark for more things to come. And, this show, I guess we'll get into more of that next week. But I feel like this show had a lot of just, this show's like the prequel for the actual, like, more, I guess, action-packed version of the show that we may get next season.
Okay.
And then, of course, as we had a long discussion about seeing the Death Star in this episode, I thought that was really nice because it connected a lot of the different things we've gotten throughout this series. Basically, like, what's going on for the Empire in the background. Saul, Luthen, all these people are like knowing like the Empire is growing more powerful. And then it confirms it with the Death Star and, it connecting back to the factory stuff we got with Cassian and Kino. So I thought that was a good touch. And, overall I thought it was a solid episode. And I came into it, I was going to actually give it like a 6.8 at first. But, after talking about it and whatnot, like discussing it more, I would say I'd have to bump it up to a 7.5.
All right. We got in the 7 ranges, and my sentiments have not changed. I think that this episode fired on all cylinders. It really brought the bar up to 11 for me as far as intensity, tension, bringing everything to a satisfying close. You got all the characters. All the pieces have been lining up to this point to see all these characters coming around, getting resolution, even to a damn droid, right? Even to a droid getting so much to do in this episode. Every aspect from cinematography to the music, which drove the intensity of this episode, seeing the Imperials just raining fire down, seeing the speech of Marva, seeing Cassian Andor end up just having his heroic moment and living up to the name of the show. Seeing Luthen being there too, and everybody there to kill Andor. And then, we knew he would survive, but it was cool to see how things played out. And played out in spectacular fashion for me. Seeing Bix and seeing how she's been subjugated, but seeing her get out alive, having a cliffhanger story too it's a good way to keep us busy. And then with the Death Star being revealed at the end, tying things all together, like Milton put so well, it's like, yeah, Narcana 5 is crucial because now we got all that context of what they were doing and the future and all. I've been saving this one. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. This was easy for me to do because, a lot of this is based off pure emotion too. And I have not been this excited for an episode of Andor. And I think it's just a testament to Tony Gilroy and the team for building up the characters for me enough to actually care enough about them. Just the characters that meant nothing to me, but now are gonna be some of the coolest Star Wars characters I've seen yet. So there you go. We got a 7.75, a 7.5, and a 10 out of 10. Yeah. And I do want to comment on your little declaration or little statement there, Ben, about this is kind of a prequel. And I think you're right with that because I didn't know or think that this show would be all about Andor before he joined the rebellion, right? Spy thriller. We didn't see Andor himself in particular being an agent of the rebellion. But I think next year or the year after, 2024, I think we're going to get almost like every week or every 3 episodes is going to be him on some kind of new mission for the rebellion. And I think that's what a lot of people were really hoping for, probably. And I wanted to see more of it, granted, too. But now we're going to see where you came from. But we'll talk about our look forward at season 2 next week, our look back at season 1, and tie everything together for our last Andor's discussion that we're going to be having for, I guess, a very, very long time. But yeah, everybody that's watching after the fact, go ahead, comment down below. What was your score for episode 12, Rix Road? And I forgot to mention, that was cool that we had that little flashback between Clem and Andor, and he's like talking about the Empire or whoever's like, people are buying these devices at this crazy cost when you could just clean them off and they're as good as new. I knew that was deep symbolism for something, but that was a cool moment because we, up until that point, we didn't really get any like warm moments between Andor's father. So that was pretty neat. I like that little cut there that they had with him like touching the brick of his father. This was really neat. Just like the culture, everything with Ferrix, just how everything runs. We haven't seen anything in Star Wars like that specific, unless it's like Tatooine, but that's been built up over like 40 years. This show has only had a couple months to do that.
Oh yeah, I mean, getting those type of like little details, it's cool. It's cool, like not like world building. I would say more like foundational building for the character and for this sort of stuff. And like I said, I think we'll get into it much more this coming week on the next episode of the podcast. But I think this show 100%. Now that I've really thought about it more since I brought that up, I think this 100% was a prequel series because let's be real, guys, we haven't got any of the spy thriller whatsoever that was talked about, like, for this show, like that sort of stuff, like for the most part anyways. So like, to me, where's that at? Where's his rebellion stuff? Like you mentioned, Chris, we haven't seen him being an agent of the rebellion technically right now. Like this series, he was just like a contract worker, I would say. So I mean, he got paid his $200,000 and he was good. So like, he was under contract. So like, I think this show was the prequel, and next season will be the actual show of what people were expecting, like the more spy thriller, that sort of stuff, with him working with the rebellion versus the prequel that we got.
Yeah, I mean, it was the all the spy stuff, of course, comes from Luthen Rail, and that guy that guy's a legend. I can't wait to talk about his all arc next week because there's a lot with Stellan Skarsgård's performance, bringing one of the best Star Wars characters I've seen in a long time to the screen. So yeah, so much to talk there. Yeah,
I agree with that sentiment. I will say again, this is probably a hint for next week. He's definitely in my top 3 of favorite characters because I liked seeing him on the screen, like, especially in this show.
Hell yeah. So for next week, of course, you'll be able to tune in live next week, like Aaron and like Gonzo did, talking to chat there at 9:00 Eastern on youtube.com/Starrapter. Next week, I will have my review up for you guys for the latest High Republic novel, Star Wars Convergence, and we'll see what else might come down the pipe. I have a feeling that, some news might start heating up now that Andor's over. So I'm sure we'll do that. And we have a lot of news stories that we haven't even talked or hinted about. Because, like tonight, 2 hours just talking about the finale as it should have been, right? This is a Star Wars live action finale. How can we not just talk about this in its own entirety, right? So it's good to have these long discussions going into the characters and the plots of Star Wars. But yeah, lots of stuff happening at Lucasfilm as of late, which we will be talking about next week and in the coming weeks. So, what are you guys going to be up to this week?
This week's just enjoying the rest of the Thanksgiving break. Just hanging out, getting some stuff done. Maybe go see some family. We'll see what happens. Some extended family. Excuse me. I know I'm definitely watching some football Sunday night because my Eagles are playing the Packers, so I'm hyped.
Heck yeah! What about you, Ben?
Hey, that's the way to do it, Milton. I'm pretty much going to be doing the same thing. Just chilling out this weekend, having a of course, watching Ohio State play Michigan tomorrow. I'm excited for the big rivalry there. I hope they win. I think they'll lose the way they played so far this year, but we'll see. And then an exciting thing though for me is I will be in Cleveland on Sunday at the Browns and Buccaneers game, and hopefully we get to see the Browns beat old man Tom Brady. I'm super excited for that game, even though it's 90% chance of rain from like noon until 5, and that's right during the window where the game is. So we might be getting rained on, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call that fun, but you be you, man.
Hey, I mean, pricey tickets. Gotta go. Rain, shine, snow, whatever it may be. Gotta go to it.
Yeah, that's real dedication there, and we hope you guys stay dedicated to watching us and listening to us on all your podcast streaming services of choice. So for Ben, for Milton, for Chris, aka Starrapter, tune in next week as we talk about season 1 of Andor as a whole. That's gonna do it for us here at Outer Rim Transmissions with episode number 84. Thanks for watching and transmission.